Kevin had seen many strange things during his 3 years aboard the Celestial Horizon, but nothing quite prepared him for the tiny creature that emerged from the Crystal and Egan cargo bay. 7. The distress signal had come from a derelict Voltorian transport ship drifting near the Kepler 442 system. Standard protocol dictated salvage rights, and Kevin's crew had been quick to respond. Among the wreckage and abandoned cargo, they found a single intact container temperature-controlled, humming with residual power, and marked with symbols that made their alien linguistics expert. "Mia, go pale." "Kevin, this is a Voltorian royal clutch marker," she'd said, her fingers tracing the glowing runes. "We shouldn't." The egg cracked before she could finish. What tumbled out was no larger than Kevin's forearm. Scales shimmered in iridescent blues and purples, catching the sterile bay lights like liquid mercury. Two tiny wings, translucent and veined like stained glass, fluttered experimentally, the creature's eyes too large for its triangular head fixed on Kevin with an intelligence that made his breath catch. "A dragon," Kevin whispered. "An actual dragon." Mia stepped forward carefully. "The Voltorians call them Kethir. They're not just pets, Kevin. They're bonded companions. Empathic, telepathic to a degree." And the hatchling chirped. It was a sound like wind chimes and distant thunder merged into something impossibly small. Then it launched itself toward Kevin. He caught it on instinct, and the moment its scaled body touched his hands, warmth flooded through him. Not heat, but something deeper, a sense of recognition, of rightness, as if a missing piece he hadn't known was absent had suddenly clicked into place. "Oh no," Mia said. "Kevin, it's chosen you. Chosen me for what? As its human." That had been 6 hours ago. Since then, the hatchling Kevin had started calling it Ember in his head, though he wasn't sure if that was his idea or something the creature had planted there had refused to leave his side. It followed him through his morning rounds, tiny claws clicking on metal decking. When Kevin checked the engine manifolds, Ember perched on his shoulder. During his meeting with Captain Rodriguez about their course to the nearest trading station, the dragon curled around his neck like a living scarf, occasionally nipping at his ear when it wanted attention. The crew found it hilarious. Engineering Chief Marcus had taken at least 50 photos. Even stoic First Officer Chen had cracked a smile when Ember sneezed and produced a spark that singed Kevin's eyebrow. But Mia remained concerned. "The Voltorians will want it back," she said during lunch break, joining Kevin in the mess hall. "A bonded Kethir from a royal clutch. That's not just valuable, Kevin, that's a political incident waiting to happen." Kevin looked down at his feet, where Ember had finally settled. The dragon had tried his lap first, then his shoulder again, then circled 3 times before deciding that the space between Kevin's boots was the perfect nest. It lay curled there now, tail wrapped around one ankle, tiny puffs of smoke escaping its nostrils with each breath. "I can't just give it up, Mia," Kevin said quietly. "I know how that sounds, but I can feel it. It's not just attachment, there's a connection." Mia sat across from him, her expression softening. She'd been studying Voltorian culture for a decade, had written 3 papers on their bonding practices, but Kevin could see the conflict in her eyes, academic knowledge warring with the reality in front of her. "The Voltorians say the Kethir choose based on soul resonance," she said finally. "They claim humans don't have the right frequency, I guess you'd call it, that our emotions are too chaotic, our intentions too unclear." She paused. "But I've been watching Ember all morning. Kevin, the way it responds to you, that's not confusion. That's certainty." Kevin reached down and gently stroked Ember's head. The dragon made a sound like a purr mixed with distant thunder, and Kevin felt that warmth again, contentment, safety. "Home, what do we do?" he asked. Before Mia could answer, the ship's intercom crackled to life. "All hands. This is the bridge. We have 3 Voltorian warships on approach. They're hailing us. They want their dragon back." The next hour was tense. Captain Rodriguez had assembled the senior staff in the conference room while the Voltorian ships maintained a holding pattern outside firing range close enough to threaten, far enough to allow negotiation. Ember hadn't left Kevin's feet. If anything, the dragon had burrowed deeper, and Kevin could feel waves of anxiety pulsing from the small creature. Not fear, exactly, but distress at the thought of separation. The Volturian delegation appeared on screen. Tall, elegant beings with skin like polished stone and eyes that held the weight of millennia. Their spokesperson, Ambassador Kelthros, wore ceremonial armor that seemed to be made of solidified starlight. The hatchling is property of House Vel'Sharok, Kelthros said, their voice carrying harmonics that made the speakers vibrate. Its egg was being transported for diplomatic purposes. We demand its immediate return. Captain Rodriguez, to her credit, kept her composure. The egg was found on a derelict vessel. By salvage law does not apply to living beings, Kelthros interrupted. Especially not to Kathir. They are sacred to our people. Then why was it alone on a dead ship? Kevin found himself speaking before he could think better of it. All eyes turned to him. Ember chirped softly, pressing against his ankle. Kelthros's expression shifted something that might have been shame in a human. There was an accident. Pirates. The ship was lost. The crew killed. We tracked the distress beacon to your vessel. But you left it there. Kevin continued, his voice gaining strength. For how long? Hours or days. This dragon was alone, scared, and you, Kevin, the captain warned. But Ember was standing now. Tiny wings spread. The dragon looked up at Kevin, then at the screen, and suddenly Kevin understood. Not in words, but in feelings: abandonment, cold, darkness, then warmth, safety. Chosen. It didn't just bond with me, Kevin said quietly. I think I might have saved its life. Silence filled the room. Mia stepped forward, her voice careful. Ambassador, in your own text, the Kethir's choice is described as absolute. The bond, once formed, cannot be unmade without destroying both souls. That's from the Treaty of Vel'Sharok, written by your own ancestors. Kelthros's eyes narrowed. A human citing our own laws. How ... unexpected. They paused, seeming to consult with someone off-screen. When they returned, their posture had changed, less aggressive, more contemplative. The hatchling has truly chosen this human. Kevin knelt down. Ember immediately climbed into his hands, nuzzling against his palm. The warmth that flooded through him was like sunlight after a storm. Yes, Kevin said simply. Another long pause. Then Kelthros made a gesture that Mia quietly translated as one of acceptance. Then, by our own laws, the bond must be honored, the ambassador said. Kevin of Earth, you are now Kethir bonded? This comes with responsibilities and consequences. House Vel'Sharok will be watching. If any harm comes to that HATCHLING ... it won't, Kevin said firmly. I promise you that. The screen went dark. The Volturian ships began to pull away, their running lights fading into the stellar background. Captain Rodriguez exhaled slowly. Well, congratulations, Kevin. You just became the first human in history to bond with a dragon, and probably started a diplomatic incident in the process. Kevin looked down at Ember, now contentedly settled back between his feet, tail thumping softly against the deck. Worth it, he said. Mia smiled. You know this changes everything, right? Humans weren't supposed to be compatible with Kethir. You just proved centuries of Volturian xenobiology wrong. Kevin shrugged. Maybe they just never found the right human before. Ember chirped in agreement, a small puff of smoke forming a perfect ring in the air. That night, Kevin lay in his quarters with Ember curled on his chest, tiny heartbeats synchronizing with his own. Through the viewport, stars wheeled by in their eternal dance, and Kevin wondered what other impossible things awaited out there in the dark. But for now, in this moment, with the dragon choosing his feet and his heart as home, he had everything he needed. The universe, it seemed, was full of surprises. And humanity was just getting started. End.